A knock in the cold night. The cold night was quiet, too quiet. Snow fell gently outside as the wind howled around the small wooden home. Inside, a human man named Ray sat near a dying fire, sipping hot tea. He lived alone on the edge of the colony, far from the busy central zones. He liked silence. He liked peace. But tonight, something felt strange. Then it came. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, shaky knocks at the door. Ray froze. It was past midnight. No one came out here. Not unless something was wrong. He grabbed his coat, walked to the door and opened it. A rush of icy wind blew in. Standing there, almost hidden by the snow, was a woman. But not a human woman. Her skin was soft gray, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her clothes were torn, soaked with melting snow. 2 small alien children stood behind her, barefoot, shaking. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. I have no more to give, but I will warm your bed. My children, they need a father." Ray blinked, confused. He looked into her tired, shining eyes. There was no trick. No smile. She wasn't playing a game. She was desperate. And scared. "I don't need that," Ray said quietly, moving aside. "Come in, all of you, now." Inside, the room warmed quickly. The children clung to their mother. Their thin frames told Ray everything. They hadn't eaten in days. He gave them warm towels, dry clothes, and leftover stew. The woman didn't touch the food. Ray brought her a bowl anyway. "Eat," he said. "You're safe now." She took the bowl but didn't speak. She sat near the corner, watching her children eat like wild things. Ray watched, too. They were young, maybe 4 or 5. One had a bruised eye. "What's your name?" Ray asked softly. She looked up, surprised. "Zora," she said. "My name is Zora." The children looked up, too. The girl spoke. "I'm Rin. He's Toru." Ray nodded. "Nice to meet you." He didn't ask more. He didn't want to scare them. But inside, questions burned. Who hurt them? Why were they out in this storm? And why did she think she had to sell herself just to keep her children alive? Later that night, Ray made beds near the fire with thick blankets. The children were already asleep, curled together like kittens. But Zora sat awake. Ray noticed she hadn't touched her own blanket. "You're cold," he said. "Sleep." She lowered her head. "I'm sorry. I should not have said that earlier. I just didn't know how else to ask for help. We've been running, hiding." "From who?" She didn't answer. Ray didn't push. Instead, he sat down beside her. "You don't have to offer anything. You're safe here. I'm not like them." Zora blinked. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. "I thought humans hated us," she whispered. "Some do," he admitted. "But not all." As the fire burned low again, Ray went to his bed. Zora remained by her children, holding them tight. Her eyes stayed open long into the night, staring at the door, listening for footsteps that might come. Sometime near dawn, Ray woke up to soft sounds. Crying. He turned his head and saw Zora whispering something into her child's ear. Her tears were falling silently. She thought no one could hear. But Ray did. She whispered one name over and over. "Rylos. Rylos. I'm sorry." Ray didn't know who Rylos was. But somehow, he knew it was someone she loved, someone she lost. He turned over, letting her have her moment. Outside, the snow fell heavier. But inside, for the first time in weeks, Zora and her children slept somewhere warm, even if her heart was still frozen. A home full of silence. The Q. Next morning came slow and gray. Snow still covered the windows. The storm hadn't stopped. Ray stood in the kitchen, quietly making breakfast. Eggs, toast, something warm. He glanced at the corner where the alien family slept. Jorah was still curled around her children, her arms tight like a shield. She hadn't moved all night. He didn't want to wake them, but the smell of food drifted through the room. Slowly, the two small children blinked their eyes open. They looked scared at first until they saw Ray. He smiled. "Good morning." Rin pulled the blanket over her head. Toru clutched his mother. They didn't speak. Jorah woke moments later. Her body snapped upright in panic, eyes scanning the room like she'd forgotten where she was. Ray raised his hands. "It's okay. You're still here. Safe." She slowly relaxed. I didn't mean to sleep so long." "You needed it." Jorah helped the kids sit up. She whispered in their ears in her own language. They listened, nodded, and slowly came to the table. Ray noticed something strange. Even while eating, they didn't make a sound. Not a giggle. Not a single word. Ray handed Rin a spoon when she dropped hers. She flinched like he was about to hit her. Ray's chest tightened. What had they gone through? He didn't ask. Not yet. Instead, he gently said, "You don't have to be afraid in my house." Jorah gave him a small nod. Her eyes said thank you, but her lips stayed shut. After breakfast, Ray let them explore the house. It wasn't big, but it was warm. He had tools, old books, a screen that sometimes worked. The kids stared at everything like it was magic, but they never touched anything. It was like they were waiting for someone to scream at them. That afternoon, Ray chopped wood out back. He noticed Zora watching through the window. She stood straight, arms around her chest. Not cold, just guarded. She came outside quietly. "Can I help?" she asked. Ray paused. "You should rest." "I can work," she said quickly. "I won't be a burden. I clean, I carry, I cook." "You're not a burden." Zora didn't reply. She picked up a small log and began stacking wood. Her hands moved fast, like she had done this before. Ray watched her silently. She wasn't just skilled. She was used to hard work, too used to it. He saw marks on her wrists, thin, dark scars that wrapped around like bracelets. Chains? Ropes? Jorah saw him looking and quickly turned away. He didn't say anything, but inside he burned. Later, while the kids napped, Ray sat at the small table. Zora was folding blankets nearby. "You don't need to clean everything," he said gently. "It calms me," she replied. "Silence scares me." Ray looked at her. "Why?" She hesitated, then said softly, "Because when it gets quiet, that's when they would come." Ray's hand tightened around his mug. Jorah noticed. "I'm sorry, I speak too much." "No," he said. "You don't speak enough." She looked down. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If I speak too much, they would hurt the children." Ray felt like someone had punched him. Jorah turned away before he could answer. She didn't want pity. She didn't even want comfort. All she wanted was safety, and even now, she wasn't sure she had it. That night, Ray placed an extra blanket on the floor near the fire. Jorah frowned. "You sleep there?" He nodded. "It's warm. You take the bed." She looked at the blanket. "I don't want to take your home." "You're not taking anything," he said softly. "You're sharing it." That word, sharing, hit her like a wave. Foreign, gentle. She slowly nodded. "Thank you. For being kind." He didn't reply. He just smiled. But after the lights were off, after the fire died, Ray heard something again. Jorah, whispering, to her children in the dark. This time she said something different. "I think we might be safe here." And for the first time since arriving, her voice didn't shake. Marks on her skin. Morning light touched the windows. The snow had stopped. The world outside looked peaceful. But inside Ray's heart, something was not at rest. Jorah was outside feeding birds with crumbs from old bread. Her movements were slow but graceful, like she was once proud. before the world crushed her. Ray stood behind the window and watched her. Her thin arms moved carefully, always aware, always checking her surroundings. He stepped out. "You don't have to feed the birds," he said, handing her a warm scarf. "They remind me of my home," she said quietly. "Back then, I had wings too, not real ones, but I felt free." Ray didn't answer. He only listened. Jorah tied the scarf around her neck, but as she did, her sleeve slipped back. And that's when Ray saw it, a deep scar. Not old, not healed. It wrapped around her, upper arm like a metal ring had been forced there. There were others too, smaller, some shaped like burns. Jorah noticed his gaze. She froze. Then she slowly pulled the sleeve down. "You weren't supposed to see that. Did someone do that to you?" Ray asked gently. She looked away. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." Jorah turned sharply. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care? I'm just a broken thing. A refugee with children, not even human." Ray stepped closer. "Because no one should be hurt like that. Not you, not anyone." Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "I can't cry," she said. "If I cry, the children worry and I have to stay strong." Later that day, Jorah insisted on helping him chop wood. Ray didn't argue this time. He handed her a lighter axe. She worked in silence beside him, the sound of wood splitting sharp in the quiet air. At one point, Zorah's sleeve ripped slightly. Ray saw more marks, this time tiny dots on her back. Shock wounds. "Torture?" he asked. She didn't stop working. "It was punishment. I spoke without permission once. Then I hid food for the children. They found out." Ray's hands turned white from gripping the axe too tight. "How long were you there?" Jorah finally paused. "One cycle, 11 months, but it felt like forever." Ray looked at her. Her body was here, but part of her was still trapped there. That night, Ray gave her a small gift, a soft brush. She looked confused. "For what?" "For your hair," he said. "It's been through too much." Jorah touched her tangled, dry strands. "It used to be shiny. Before the cage." Ray said nothing, but his silence meant more than words. Jorah took the brush and began brushing slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. But her shoulders loosened. The children came close. Rin sat on Ray's lap, watching curiously. Toru handed his mother a small flower he had drawn with crayons. Ray had given them those crayons. Jorah stared at the picture. It was her, smiling. She touched the drawing like it was made of glass. "I haven't smiled like this in a long time," she whispered. When night came, Ray checked on them. The children were asleep, but Jorah sat alone on the edge of the rug, holding the brush. He sat near her. "Hard day?" Jorah nodded. "But also soft." "What do you mean?" She smiled softly. "My back hurts from chopping wood, but my heart hurts less." She looked into his eyes. "You're dangerous, human." Ray raised a brow. "Why?" "Because you're teaching me to feel again." And with that, she lay beside her children, gently brushing their hair with the same care she never received herself. Ray stayed awake for a while. He wasn't sure when it happened, but Zorah's pain had become his pain, and her healing had become his duty. And she feared. Jorah screamed in her sleep. It was the first time Ray had heard her voice loud. It was sharp, filled with terror. She woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, her arms thrown out to protect her children. Ray rushed in. "It's okay. You're safe," he said, holding up his hands. Jorah stared at him, breathing hard. Her eyes were wild. Her whole body shook. Rin and Toru clung to her arms, scared but silent. I dreamed he found us," she whispered. Ray sat beside her, voice soft. "Who?" She looked at the floor, voice low like a ghost. "The man I once called husband." The next morning, Ray did something he hadn't done in months. He left home. He told Zora he needed to get supplies from the old outpost a few miles south. But he didn't tell her everything. He needed to know who had broken her, and if they were coming. Ray drove a small crawler across the snowfields, passing frozen trees and abandoned machines. The wind howled, but inside his head was louder. Zora had escaped something evil. But how far behind was it? The outpost was quiet, half buried in snow. Ray met an old trader named Jonas, one of the few who still talked to outsiders. "Jonas," Ray said, "you hear anything about alien refugees lately? A woman? 2 kids?" Jonas looked up sharply. "You mean the Varelian girl? The one who escaped from Sector 9? Ray's heart jumped. "Sector 9? Jonas nodded. "Yeah, that place ain't right. Run by some warlord named Brekar. Thinks women are tools, keeps them locked up, breeds them, sells the weak ones." Ray clenched his fists. "Zora escaped from there?" Jonas raised an eyebrow. "Zora? That's her name?" Ray nodded. Jonas whistled. "Then she's got a price on her head. Brekar's men are searching. Word is he wants her back alive, but only so he can kill her himself." Ray drove back fast. His heart pounded like a drum. By the time he reached the house, it was late. The sun was bleeding into the snow. Zora met him at the door. "You went somewhere?" Ray didn't lie. "I needed to know what we're up against." She turned pale. "Then you know." He nodded. "Brekar." Zora dropped her head. "He'll come. He always finds what he owns." "You are not property," Ray said firmly. "You don't understand," she said, trembling. "He's not just a man. He's a monster in skin. He breaks women until they forget how to cry. He makes the children watch." Ray's voice was like iron. "Then I'll break him." That night Zora didn't sleep. Neither did Ray. He reinforced the doors, locked every window, checked the power supply, set traps outside using parts from old machines. Zora stood in the dark, watching him work. "You're not afraid?" she asked. "I am," he replied. "But I'm more afraid of letting him hurt you again." She came closer, voice small. "I didn't come to you because I wanted to be your wife. I came because I had no hope left. I know. But now, I think I want to stay. Not for safety, but for something else." Ray looked at her. "What's that?" She smiled, just a little. "Because my children laugh here, and because you see me as more than a scarred body." Ray reached out, gently touching her hand. "You're not staying because I let you. You're staying because you choose to." Far away, under a black sky, a large transport ship hovered low. A tall alien male stepped off the ramp. His eyes burned red, his armor blood-stained. "Brekar," he sniffed the cold air. "She's close," he growled. Behind him, 10 armed soldiers followed. "She thought she could run," he hissed. "But the stars themselves will not hide her from me." And so the monster came, toward the woman who had once been his prize, and toward the human who had dared to give her a name again. They want her back. Zora stood at the window, her breath fogging the cold glass. She didn't move, didn't blink. She had felt it before Ray heard anything. The wind had changed, and so had the silence outside. Ray stepped in behind her. "You sense them?" She nodded. "He's near. I can feel him, like a sickness in the air." Ray didn't question her. Some things didn't need proof. He grabbed the old rifle from under his bed, checked the energy cell, then handed Zora a small blade. "Take it." Zora stared at the knife. "I never wanted to fight again." "I know," Ray said, "but this time you're not fighting alone." Ray had prepared well. Traps were buried under the snow. Tripwires connected to sound bombs. He had rewired old mining gear to power electric fences around the home. Still, it didn't feel like enough. Inside, Rin and Toru sat quietly. They sensed something was wrong, but didn't ask. Zora kissed their foreheads, hiding the fear in her eyes. "If anything happens," she whispered to them, "you run to the back cellar and hide. Don't make a sound." Toru's voice shook. Will you come get us? Jorah held him close. Always. Just before nightfall they came. Dark shapes moved between the trees. Shadows with red eyes. 10 soldiers. 1 leader. Brakar. He didn't knock. He didn't speak. He just stood at the edge of the trees, staring. Ray opened the door and stepped outside. The snow crunched under his boots. He held the rifle at his side, not raised but ready. Brakar smiled. So, this is the human who stole what was mine. Ray didn't blink. She was never yours. Brakar's voice rumbled. Everything I touch is mine. That includes her, and the brats. Ray's finger tightened on the trigger. You're not touching anyone. Brakar raised a hand. His soldiers spread out. Ray didn't wait. He fired the first shot. The blast hit one of Brakar's men square in the chest. The sound echoed like thunder. Then chaos exploded. 2 soldiers ran toward the house only to trigger a hidden trap. A flash of light and a deafening blast knocked them back. The ground cracked open near the path as a shock charge detonated. Inside, Jorah pulled the children toward the cellar. She hesitated, then ran back for the window. She saw Ray surrounded, fighting 3 at once. Without thinking, she grabbed the knife and ran out into the snow. Ray fell to one knee as a soldier hit him, hard in the side. His rifle sparked, useless now. He swung it like a club, smashing another to the ground. But there were too many. Then a sharp cry cut through the night. Jorah. She struck from behind, blade in hand, slicing through armor and flesh. The soldier dropped. She didn't stop. Ray saw, her eyes full of rage, not fear. Jorah was not just a mother, not just a survivor. She was a storm. They fought back to back, covering each other. Ray's fists were bloody. Jorah's hands were shaking, but she didn't stop until Brakar stepped forward. He grabbed Jorah by the throat and lifted her like she weighed nothing. She gasped, dropping the blade. Ray screamed, "Let her go!" Brakar laughed. "You think you can keep her from me?" Ray charged. Brakar turned too late. Ray tackled him, knocking Jorah free. The 2 men rolled through the snow, fists slamming into bone and armor. Brakar was stronger, bigger, but Ray fought like a man with everything to lose. Blood spilled across the snow. Ray's lip split, his ribs cracked, but he didn't fall, because behind him Jorah picked up the knife again. And this time, she didn't hesitate. With a roar, she stabbed Brakar in the side. He howled, shoving Ray off and grabbing his wound. "You traitor," he snarled at her. Jorah stepped closer. "I am not yours. I never was." Ray raised his fist one last time and slammed a steel bar across Brakar's skull. The warlord collapsed into the snow, breathing, but unconscious. The snow was silent again. Jorah fell to her knees, gasping. Ray dropped beside her. They didn't speak for a long time. Then Jorah whispered, "You fought for me." Ray smiled through bloodied lips. "You're worth fighting for." And somewhere inside the house, Rin and Toru peeked from the cellar door. For the first time, they weren't afraid. Their mother had faced the monster and won. Blood on the snow. Blood stained the snow like spilled paint. Ray lay in the freezing white, barely breathing. His hands trembled. His ribs ached with every breath. Brakar's body was still, but Ray didn't move yet. He kept his eyes on the warlord, just in case. Jorah knelt beside him. Her hands pressed over Ray's wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. "Don't close your eyes," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please, stay with me." Ray coughed weakly. "You stabbed him good." Jorah laughed, but it came out as a sob. "You hit harder." Behind them, Rin and Toru ran toward their mother. The children hugged her tight, crying. But Jorah didn't cry. She had no tears left. They dragged Ray inside. His blood left a red trail across the porch. Jorah used clean cloth and warm water. Her hands were steady now, strong. She had tended to many wounds in the past, but never for someone who fought for her. Ray blinked up at her. "Am I dying?" "No," Jorah said firmly. You're too stubborn. He smiled, then passed out. For 3 days, Ray slept. Jorah barely left his side. She cared for his wounds, boiled herbs, and kept the fire alive. The children helped quietly, placing blankets over him and whispering small wishes. On the second night, Ray opened his eyes. Did we win? He mumbled. Jorah nodded. You won. We're safe. Where's Brakar? She looked toward the back window. Locked in the ice cellar. Alive. For now. Ray coughed. You didn't kill him? No, she whispered. Killing is easy. But I want him to live long enough to see we're not afraid anymore. When Ray could stand, the first thing he asked was, Can I go outside? Jorah helped him to the porch. The snow had melted a little, revealing patches of earth. The cold air bit at their skin, but they didn't care. The world was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty. Jorah stood close beside him. Not from fear, but from choice. I used to think safety meant hiding, she said softly. But you taught me it means standing. Ray looked at her. You were already strong, I just reminded you. She smiled. Then let me remind you of something. He raised a brow. What's that? Jorah stepped in and kissed him, soft and real. Later, as they sat with the children inside, Jorah pulled out a box from her bag. Inside was a small silver charm, shaped like a flame. My people give this to those who save lives, she said. I only had one. I saved it for someone worthy. She placed it in Ray's hand. You're our flame now, she said. Ray looked at the charm, then at her and the children. No, he said. We are each other's flame. That night, Breaker woke in the ice cellar. He was chained, cold and powerless. His red eyes stared at the ceiling. Outside, laughter echoed from the home above. Jorah's children were laughing. She was free. And he, who once ruled with fear, was forgotten beneath the earth. Warmth in the morning. The sun rose slowly, melting the last of the frost. For the first time in many days, there was no fear in the wind, no shadows in the trees, just soft light pouring through the windows of the small house. Inside it was warm. Ray sat by the fire, wrapped in a thick blanket, sipping tea. His body still ached, but the pain was lighter now, almost forgotten. Across from him, Rin was drawing again, her small hands busy with color. Toru was building something from scrap metal and wire. Jorah stood in the kitchen, humming. She was singing. Ray couldn't remember the last time he had heard her voice so full of peace. She turned, holding a plate of fresh bread and fruit. They're finally eating without hiding food in their sleeves, she said with a smile. Ray nodded. They feel safe now. Jorah's smile faded into something softer. And I do too. She walked over and sat beside him. For a while, they didn't speak. They just watched the fire, their shoulders touching. I never thanked you, she said quietly, for everything. Ray shook his head. You don't need to thank me. You saved me too. She looked at him. How? I was alone before you knocked on that door. I had firewood, food, silence. But I didn't have family. Later that morning, Ray stood outside. The snow was melting fast. The trap wires were gone. The house didn't need them anymore. Jorah joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. Brakar's ship is still in the trees. Ray nodded. I sent a signal last night. The colony council will come. They'll take him. Do you think he'll return? No, Ray said calmly. He'll never leave that cell again. Jorah exhaled. Not fear, not worry, just relief. They stood side by side, looking at the horizon. That night something beautiful happened. Rin pulled Ray's hand and whispered, Can we call you Dad? Ray's throat tightened. He nodded. If you want. Toru hugged his leg. Mom smiles more now. You make her safe. Jorah watched from the doorway, a soft glow in her eyes. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Everything had already been said. As the stars blinked into the night sky, Zora walked into Ray's room. She wore a simple robe, clean, warm, and hers. No chains, no bruises, no fear. Ray looked up as she entered. She sat on the bed beside him. "Before," she whispered, "I offered to warm your bed, because I was desperate." "I remember," Ray said. Zora reached for his hand. "Now, I want to, not out of need, but out of love." Ray gently pulled her close, and for the first time they held each other not as broken people, but as two hearts healing together. Outside, the cold tried to return, but it couldn't get in. Not anymore. Because inside that small house, warmth lived not in the fire, but in the family that had found each other by chance and chosen to stay by love.